Okay, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on what time you're watching this video. This is Mr. Connolly. Okay, today we're going to be looking at work plans and Gantt chart. This is the example exam question I set you. Okay, it's from the iMedia R081 exam. Okay, and we're prepping for our first attempt at it. So, before we could answer the question, we needed to read the brief. So below is a section from the client brief provided by Progressive Museums for the new Life in Roman Britain project. The Life in Roman Britain project is a travelling exhibit that will visit primary schools using a lorry and a bus. At each school, the lorry and the bus will set up with big banners outside the doors welcoming the school children in. The exhibit will include mannequins and staff dressed in a range of Roman costumes. Inside the back of the lorry there will be two rooms, a Roman villa, stone-coloured room with plates of food, cushions and couches, sounds and talking and music. There'll be a Roman barracks with wooden-style building and a bed and a weapon rack, including sounds and the smells of battle. The bus will contain 2 floors with interactive presentations and exhibits. The top floor, presentations showing how life was in the Roman Empire, including sounds of everyday life. And in the bottom floor, a video and presentation about life in Rome, with senators voting, and it includes sound of debates and people shouting over each other. The exhibit needs to start visiting schools in October, but needs to be tested before it starts visiting the schools, which will take a month. Each floor of the bus and room of the lorry will take 2 months to develop. We can only allocate a small team of people to developing the exhibit, so each of the floors and rooms must be completed before the next one can be started. So you can only do one room at a time. Okay, so question 1, or question part A. From the client brief, identify 2 design requirements. So look at the client brief. Okay, you've got to identify 2 design requirements. Okay, so if you want to pause the video if you complete the question. Okay, part B, from the client brief, identify 1 time restriction placed on the production. So this is worth 1 mark. So again, if you complete the question now, you might want to pause the video. Okay, hopefully you've spotted it. Okay, and then part C, using the information provided in the client brief, you need to create a work plan for the production of the interactive presentations. Add the relevant information to the chart below. Okay, now in the Teams task, I asked you to create this on Excel to get you used to using Excel again to create Gantt charts. Obviously, you won't have to do that in the exam. And if you're doing this question for the first time, it might be worth just scribbling this table down on a piece of paper and actually creating the question there. Okay, so it's worth 7 marks, so it's a big mark question. If you want to pause the video, if you've not attempted it already, okay, and then I'll go through the mark scheme with you. Okay, so we'll go through the mark scheme now. So the first question, it says that this is a low-level question that looks for the requirements about what should have been contained within the exhibit and can only be taken from the brief provided in the question paper. There are many options available from the brief that could be selected. Do not accept anything that refers to a time issue. So you could have 2 rooms, floors on the bus, 2 rooms on the lorry. Okay, they're each worth 1 mark. Stone-coloured villa rooms, 1 mark. Wooden-style barracks, 1 mark. Plates of food, 1 mark. Sound smell of the battle in barracks, 1 mark. Sounds of people shouting, 1 mark. Video presentation of life in Rome, 1 mark. Big banners outside, 1 mark. Mannequins and actors in costumes, 1 mark. And any other suitable response from the brief. Okay, so it was worth 2 marks altogether, so a maximum of 2 marks. Then question B, this can only be taken from the brief provided in the question paper. There are no other time restrictions in the brief, so these are the only possible answers. There must be an indication of what time restrictions refer to. For example, 2 months is. Okay, so you could have 2 months for each room would give you a mark. 8 months for all the production before testing would give you a mark. Ready for schools in October would give you a mark. Ready for testing in September or 1 month before going to schools would give you a mark. And each room must be completed before the next one is started would give you another mark. Okay, so you could get, as long as you had any of those, you can have a mark. And then going on to the final, actually onto the Gantt chart. Okay, so this question is about creating a work plan as the candidates do in all the coursework units for the specification. So you know, for every unit we have to create a work plan, a Gantt chart. The timescales are included in the brief, which the candidates need to interpret. Bullet 1 does not need to be shaded in, but can be implied from the diagram created. So as long as you can see that you've got enough squares coloured in to go from January to September, you can get the mark for that first point. So as long as you can see that the project takes, okay, all of those months, you can have that first mark. Okay, the order that the rooms and floors are created is not important, as none are dependent on another. Okay, so you could have put, as long as it goes down as a cascade like this, you can have any of them in order. Okay, all grades are covered, but there are 3 level 2 distinction plus marks awarded, so these are the only timescales and tasks acceptable. Okay, so if you look here, these are what the marks you can get. Okay, so the first mark for 9 months, but like I say, if you can visage from your Gantt chart that it starts here and ends here and it cascades like this, okay, you can still get that mark for the top one. 2, 4 floors, buildings. 3, testing tasks. 4, 2 months for the 2 buildings. 2 months for the 2 floors, content of floors. 1 month for testing. And no overlap of bullets 2 to 6. So you'll notice on these bullets there's no overlap because you can't start the next one until you finish the one before. So you can't start the barracks before the Roman villa's finished. Okay, you can't start the top floor until the Roman barracks is finished. So they need to be cascaded like this. Okay, now if you struggled with the Gantt charts question, what I would suggest you do is that you watch the GCSE pod video again. And if you want an in-depth, if you want to hear about work plans in a more in-depth form, you can watch the online lesson which is attached to the Teams assignment. Okay, see you next time. Goodbye.